Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about the new movie, The Watchers. If you end up enjoying this video, please consider liking and subscribing. That way I don't have to stand in a glass room while creatures watch me from the outside. The Watchers is directed by Ishana Shyamalan, M. Night Shyamalan's daughter. I love a good creature horror movie, so I wanted to check this one out. The synopsis is as follows. A 28-year-old artist gets stranded in an expansive, untouched forest in Western Ireland. Finding shelter, she unknowingly becomes trapped alongside three strangers who are stalked by mysterious creatures every night. So without further ado, let's get into the 6 things that make a movie great. 1. The plot. Mina works at a pet shop and is given instructions by her boss to take a bird to someone who ordered it across town in a wooded area that she hasn't been to before. As she's on her way out there, her car dies. She gets lost, stumbles across a mysterious woman in the woods, who then tells her that she's going to shut the door of this house-looking thing in 5 seconds. Mina takes the bird, runs inside, and finds herself in this giant viewing room with 3 other people who she has no idea who they are or where she is. The more she finds out, the more horrified she gets, and the more determined to escape she becomes. This movie is based off of an Irish horror novel written by A.M. Shine, but unfortunately to me, the mythology behind this movie is much more interesting than the actual film was. So it just didn't feel like it was adapted to screen very well. So while there were interesting concepts, I just wasn't really impressed by the story of this movie, and many times found myself being bored with the story and feeling trapped in this environment that only takes place in like 4 different scenes. So for me, plot gets a 50-50. 2 is family friendliness. The Watchers is rated PG-13. There's a mild bit of profanity, a couple scary moments here or there, and just a creepy vibe to the whole thing. I do like that this movie didn't drop a few F-bombs and push itself to an R rating and limit its demographic, but a PG-13 rating alone could not save this movie. So use your discretion, but for me, family friendliness gets a 50-50. 3 is acting and script. Unfortunately, none of the acting performances in this movie were anything to write home about. I love seeing Dakota Fanning return to screen, but the last couple movies I've seen her in, both this one and Equalizer 3, I just wasn't really impressed by. And I don't know how much of that is due to her acting performance or due to just the lousy script she's given. And the script was a bit of a mess. Interactions between characters were okay at times. For the most part, it was just a huge mess of characters making poor decisions and having Dakota Fanning read these very ethereal lines as a voiceover. It just came across very cheesy and didn't feel like it was very well written. And for all the things that they could have included with the really interesting source material mythology, it seemed like they decided to go the route of manufactured drama between uninteresting characters instead, which is a boring crying shame. So for me, acting and script get a thumbs down. 4 is character development. Like all crappy creature horror movies, most take a stab at having to do with some sort of trauma that the main character has experienced tying in at the end. And just like all those other crappy horror movies, this one does a pretty terrible job of it. Mina has a hard time being herself, and she has pushed down a lot of trauma that she's experienced as a child, losing her mother in a car accident. But what they try to do in the film is such a loose, uninteresting tie-in that when you get to the end of the movie, you're like, I don't care, and this is a pretty terrible tie-in anyway. You don't care about any of these characters, including Mina, at any point during the movie. Character development for me gets a thumbs down. 5 is visuals and CGI. I think there were a couple times where the creature CGI was okay, but they used it during dark scenes to cover up the cheap CGI. And the fact that you can tell that in the movie allows the poor quality to kind of shine through. The creature design is interesting, but the CGI just wasn't that good. In addition to that, this is what I like to call a claustrophobic movie. Besides the beginning and end of the film, you are pretty much trapped in the observatory or the forest for the entire film, and you definitely feel stuck there. Like I always mention, those films are extremely hard to make well, and this one did not hit the mark. The visuals and CGI were not the worst part of this movie, and had the rest of it been better, I actually wouldn't have minded it as much. But because the rest of the movie is what it is, this just kind of follows suit. So for me, visuals and CGI get a 50-50. And 6 is rewatchability. The Watchers is an hour and 42 minutes long, and because you feel trapped and bored, and you don't care about any of the characters, this movie feels like it drags on a bit. The little twist at the end makes it a bit more interesting, but that interest was pretty short-lived because the ending of this movie kind of sucked. I'm never going to watch this movie again. For me, rewatchability gets a thumbs down. With all these areas considered, I have to give The Watchers a 3 out of 10. This movie had some interesting lore and creature design behind it, and not much else. The script of this movie was a mess, the acting was cheesy, you felt trapped and bored for most of the film, and the lack of character development and cheap stab at past trauma made this movie join all the other cheaply made creature horror movies pretty nicely. As it turns out, if you add more Shyamalans to a movie, it does not guarantee that it will make it better. It's impressive that his daughter is only 25 years old and creating a movie like this, so I'm interested in seeing what she can do moving forward. But as far as The Watchers go, I would not waste your time or movie going to watch this movie in theaters. Thank you so much for watching. If you've seen The Watchers, please let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. As always, I appreciate your love and support, and I'll catch you guys and gals in the next one.